who am I? And why am I on your screen talking about where you want to be?
Hello, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard on this flight to where you want to be. A huge thank you from your future self and us for deciding to journey with us. We're expecting a smooth flight and anticipate some turbulence in the shadow work section. So keep those seatbelts on when the light is on and allow yourself grace. If the weather continues to be, well, we will see some wells of emotion and peak celebration on our right on this journey. On behalf of the whole crew, we would like to thank you for flying with us. Until our destination is reached, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of your flight. Thank you.
They say insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Is that something you've been doing? Because it's something I've been doing for a long time. They say insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Is that something you've been doing? Well, as somebody who had been doing that for a very long time, I learned that you got to change the core and the foundation. You got to change the operating system of the being. That's the only way you get external change. Think about it like a concentric circle. At the core are your beliefs, and outside of that are your habits. And outside of that is your daily life. In order to change your habits, you gotta go inward to change what fuels those habits and what fuels you. And that's what this channel is about. This is the journey to living your dream life. So come with me. And by no means saying I'm at the end of this journey and I am your sensei. I am saying I've seen a path. And I think we can all go on this path to get into where we want to be and live more happy, fulfilled lives. As someone who started this journey maybe 2 years ago, even longer, honestly, and finally found my groove, I'm hoping you get your groove. How Stella got a groove back. Okay. I tried this 50 times, so I finally did it. No, I want to warn you that this work is not easy, brother. It's not easy. It's a lot of work and it's really transformative work and it's good. It's so good. But it also is hard. As my professor once said, to know yourself is the most difficult thing. And if you try, you will.
Yeah,
To know yourself is the most difficult thing you will ever confront in your life.
you gotta know yourself, you gotta do the work.
If you try, you might feel a satisfaction, even though the road was difficult, that the vast majority of people will never achieve.
Truth say.
Now go live your lives, finish strong, and just be honest.
And that is an excerpt from my song called The Taba Av, which I wrote a while ago. And that is a great segue into who am I? And why am I on your screen talking about where you want to be? I'm Mungo, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist who works in visual arts, dance, and music to empower and really represent and reframe narratives around empowerment so that people live more fulfilled lives. I've been doing this for quite a bit now, and I have multiple mediums of work that represent this message, which was really important as well to find before coming to make this channel. Because it was realizing I've always been driven by something, but I'd never quite named what the thing is that I was being driven by. And that is the belief that we can all live a happier, more fulfilled life. And I'm trying to make that happen by starting this channel. So I hope it works for you. It's worked for me. Well, who am I and how did I get to this journey? I went through incredible burnout 2 years ago. And I was doing music and all these different versions of art. And nobody had ever told me that doing something you love could also burn you out. And if nobody's told you yet, I'm telling you right now that you gotta slow your roll because Even doing something you love and are obsessed with can burn you out. It was November of 2024 when I lost my voice. I couldn't speak. And even now, you see the remnants. There's a few different factors involved. One of them was the fact that I was super stressed. The second was there was a lot of smoke all in the air because Idaho has wildfires. The third was I didn't have good singing technique. And the fourth was, I believe, long COVID. And some of the effects of long COVID were loss of breath because I went to the doctor and she had me take 20 steps and, she had me take as many steps as I could with one breath. So you breathe in, you hold, and you walk. And as many steps as you can take is where you're, I don't remember what they call it, but there's a measurement of breath that is. And we realized that a child's is usually at 40 and mine was at 20 steps. I could only do 20 steps with one breath, which meant I needed to breathe more when I'm talking and I needed to reinvigorate my system and learn how to breathe deeper again. And this led me to a whole journey of resetting my nervous system and learning how to breathe and learning how to reset it when I need to reset my nervous system. And again, this was great insight on just learning how to let go and learning how to start anew and learning how to reframe your goals. Because this was the first time in my life I was thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this thing that I've dreamt about for many years, ever, after that. So it was a very challenging time, but it was a very informative time because I think it has brought about so much good change. It has brought about the fuel to a new fire, one could call it. So that's me, and that's why I started this channel. And why now, you would say? Well, a few factors. One of them is that which I've told you. It was finally time to share and express this thing that's been waiting for expression inside of me for a very long time. I have a song called Miracle that the tenet of it is there's a miracle inside of you because there is a miracle inside of you, right? I think there's a miracle inside of each one of us. I think it's amazing that in a world of so many people, your parents met and you were brought into this world. I think there's something special about that regardless of where you are or what circumstance it is that you're in. I think holding on to something that magical brings magic back into your life. It brings it closer. So that's something that I champion is finding the magic in everyday life. And I always knew that when I wrote Sekelela, which I wrote at 16, and it talks about smiling regardless of whatever it is that's happening in your life. And so when I got to the point where I realized that's what I've always been doing, and that's what I've been doing with visual arts, I did a public art piece downtown Boise that represents all these different immigrant nations that have moved to Idaho, so that they feel represented and loved and empowered and feel a sense of belonging. I finally started to draw parallels, and then I taught dance classes and realized I love teaching dance classes because it opens up that thing in someone that helps them realize they're capable of more than they know. And Kurt Hahn once said, if you show somebody what they can achieve, they will never settle for less. I'm loosely translating that and loosely remembering that quote, but that's something Kurt Hahn said. I might find the quote and put it in the video. But it's something that I've always lived with ever since I heard those words, and maybe even before, one would say, because I believed in that sense of once you touch something or once you see something differently, you can make changes in your own life that brings you closer to living the life you want to live and making the impact you want to make. So that's why it was time. It was time for this channel because of that. And it was time for this channel for multiple other cultural reasons, which I'll get into as we get on this journey of getting to where we want to be. To do this work that we have to do, I believe that we have to start at the core, which I mentioned earlier. Now, what is the core? The core is the sense and set of beliefs that one has about themselves, about the world. We show up with this sense of beliefs everywhere we go, every time. You're showing up with it in this video right now. You know, there is a sense of urgency maybe that you thought of to yourself that you decided to act upon. You decided, I think it's time that I move closer to my goals. I think it's time that I show up in the way that I want to show up in my life. And that's a belief that needed to change because you finally figured I'm worth going on this journey for. And so before I get into the weeds of that, the core of yourself is yourself, right? Your beliefs, everything you've known, everything you've been taught. And that is what fuels the fire that is inside of you. And I believe every choice we have in our life is a reflection of our self and our self concept and what we think of ourselves. And I'm going to talk about intentionality in depth in this journey, but I will bring it in right here because being intentional about what that is what changes your life. Because for so long, we have lived with a sense of life is happening to me. And this is where you change that narrative. And this is where you say, I am changing my life. I have urgency, agency in my life to change something in my life. So everyone has from a young age been asked what they aspire to, right? From a young age, we ask people, what do you want to be? Which part of society do you want to occupy? How do you want to make your money? How do you want to earn your living? And a lot of this time, this wishing is co-opted by capitalism because it makes good workers out of us. But I don't know if it makes good people out of us because we never really live as fulfilled beings. I once watched a guy on TikTok whose name I do not remember. I'll be referencing TikToks here and I'll be adding them to the bio so you guys can watch them. But this one I don't remember. But he was a guy who was suddenly in college and realizing that he never really knew who he was. This was the first time that he was out in the world and he had no concept or sense of who it was that he was, you know? And that was partially why I got into this journey because it was realizing that there's so many of us who are going around the world not knowing who we are and what we want to be and how we want to be. And then that is a problem in and of itself. I don't want to go into why that is a problem, but it's a problem in and of itself. Because again, it makes good workers out of us. I don't know if it makes good people out of us. So we're barely asked how we want to feel when we grow up in these settings, right? We're a lot of the time asked what we want our life to look like materially, but we never or barely are we ever asked what we want our life to feel like internally. We are very out of touch with our emotions as a world, and I think this keeps us blinded from what our priorities are, and it keeps us blinded from feeling more fulfilled because we're chasing things that will never quite fulfill us in the way that changing that core belief would fulfill us, because you suddenly find fulfillment in everything. You suddenly find fulfillment in the fact that you're waking up one day and going to work. You suddenly find fulfillment in the fact that you're drinking a cup of tea. You know, you bring fulfillment closer to you when you've reassessed what you want to feel and how you want to feel it. So I think this big problem of never knowing how we want to feel and what we want to feel then leads to a bigger problem, which is never knowing what we want to invite into our lives and never knowing how to go for what we're looking for in our lives. Which brings about another big problem of a lot of people who are aimlessly wandering the world, really, and feeling like they are not in a place where they can make changes and make effective change and bring about a better life for them and people around them. I think that's why a big part of this channel is also here, is because in order to make change and live a better life for ourselves, part of that is doing it for the people around us or doing it for our community, knowing or unknowingly. Because when you do make your change, when you change yourself, you change the world around you. Neville Goddard, I believe, said, the only thing to change is yourself, which brings me back to the concept of the self. All of these beliefs, all of these things are what keep us trapped. If you really think about it, we find scapegoats and excuses for all of the reasons why we are in a certain place, and a lot of them could be valid, don't get me wrong. But sometimes, and a lot of the times, might I add, it is because of something we believe about ourselves that we believe to be true, so we never act a certain other way. So if I believe I can only wear gray clothes, even if somebody gifts me a red jacket, which is beautiful, I won't wear it because I don't believe that I could wear a red coat, you know? And that belief will keep me hindered. I could have loved a red coat and I would have a red coat. Somebody's gifted it to me, but I wouldn't know how to use a red coat because I have believed all my life that gray is my color and I only wear gray clothes. You understand? So it's a journey of uncoupling our beliefs with the way we live. It's a journey of changing those beliefs. It's a journey of getting to the core of those beliefs and changing them, shifting them, and going, you know what? That belief is no longer helping me. And there might be beliefs that have served you growing up, right? There might be beliefs that as you grew up, it was helpful to have that belief, right? It kept you safe. And at this point, it's time to reassess and reset your nervous system and go look around and decide, do I still need that thing, right? Do I still need that sense of protection from the world? That's, I guess, another tenet of this journey is changing the world around you. Because a lot of us are stuck in a world that keeps us in those places. So if I believe I can only wear gray clothes and somebody gives me a red coat and I wear the red coat and the world around me doesn't agree to my red coat and I'm not ready to allow that to be true, then I'll shrink back into just wearing gray, right? I'll go out and somebody will say, oh, you wear red coats? I've never seen you in a red coat. That's strange. And suddenly you're going, oh, maybe I shouldn't wear red coats. Maybe I didn't, you know. And so part of that is changing your environment, even momentarily, while you get your grip on the fact that you can do what you want. Because once you are in that state, this is changing your mind to decide, I can decide what I'm doing in my life, regardless of what it is that other people are saying about this thing. So if finally you've gotten to the end of that journey and you're wearing a red coat and somebody says, "Ooh, this red coat's funky," like, why would you wear something like that? The goal is to get to a point where you go, I don't care. You know, I love this red coat and I'm wearing it. And that is a difficult journey. And so let's get on this journey. I'm glad you're coming with me. So we started the self and we're going to tap into that on the next episode. That was an introduction of getting to where I want to be and why I think this journey is so important. So, thanks for hopping on. Yeah! Yeah! That should be like outro music. Maybe I'll write something for outro. But thank you again for hopping on this journey to get where I want to be. I hope that you learned something about yourself in this episode. Stay grounded, and we'll see you next time when we're talking about the self and where to start. Thank you for joining. You like my sips?